Hey everyone, Sebastian here and welcome to Atmoseeker. So good to have you here. I do a lot of experiments with atmosphere, lighting, and kind of the tabletop terrain to do with tabletop gaming. And today we're going to be focusing on a little bit of terrain that we can use for some urban encounters and some underground, potentially like sewer type locations. Basically, I'm going to try and use some recycled materials or something that I've had discovered kicking around the garage. That could do the trick because it was about to go in the hard waste. What I found is this, basically it's this old chair mat. It's a little bit damaged. Oh wow, I just pinched my finger in there. Basically it's a bit damaged, so it was like, oh, this is going into hard waste. But something that struck out me about this one, you can see that there is this kind of like fine cobblestone texture that is actually the perfect scale for the 28 scale? 28 millimeter miniatures and stuff. So basically what I'm going to do is going to try and turn this into some game board tiles, which are slightly modular for to be laid out in different kind of variations. Let's get to it, and yeah, well, I'm going to pull out the rotary tool, try and make some measurements, maybe cut something to square first, just to see what kind of thing I'm working with. So to try and save time, I've also cut out a square out of foam core, just as a guide. Now it's just going to be about cutting it. I'm going to try using the rotary tool first. Before I get going with the rotary tool, safety equipment, important, protect those eyes. Let's get into it, let's get cutting. So, this plastic is quite thick. Pros, man, it's gonna be durable. So I'm gonna have to go at quite high speed for this. Huh? It's quite thick. This might take a little bit of cutting. With the thickness of this thing, maybe just a good old-fashioned hacksaw would do the job. Oh, wow. Okay, pluses, it's cutting through so much better. Minuses, I don't think the saw is wide enough, long enough, or something. It's pretty good getting to about there. So, hacksaw seems to be the way to go to cut this thing. Okay, I don't know how to cut more of this. But I don't want to like just take out chunks of this. I'm just trying to think if I'm abandoning this project or not. Hey, so it's a couple of weeks since I recorded those last things where I was trying to cut it with the Dremel tool, the rotary tool that I had. And the thing was, that rotary tool I had was kind of baby's first rotary tool. It was very much for like fine detail work and stuff. So one of the cheaper varieties. So went ahead and got myself a birthday present here, something a little bit more heavy duty. Hopefully that'll cut through this cutting mat a lot more easier. It's got a lot more attachments, lots of manual stuff. And here's the big boy. Here's the Dremel 4000. So at least 4000 more powerful than the one I had before. All right, so I put it all together. It took a little bit of reading to get it all attached, but we've got the flexible shaft attachment here with a little bit of plastic cutting disc on it. So, gonna give it a shot, see how it goes. Eye protection, see how it cuts out, really. Ugh. Something I'm noticing about all the spinning and cutting is because it's spinning quite fast, it's kind of heating up the plastic quite a bit, so I can feel it stinging my face a little bit. So maybe some whole face protection would be good. There's no dust, it's just little shards of plastic and stuff, but maybe I'll put in a dust mask just to be safe. Little sanding attachment that I'm going to pop onto it. Try and clean up some of these edges. You see they've kind of they're a bit rough right now. All right, so I've cleaned up the edges a bit. I figure while I'm at it, may as well use the sanding bit on this drilly thing on the Dremel, the rotary. to smooth out some of these bumps. Okay, so that was really messy. I'm not sure if I'm using the right tools for the job, but we got there in the end. I managed to cut these pretty cleanly. You can see that I've kind of neatened up the edges a bit with some of those sanding tools, and even kind of cleared off some of the bumps as well underneath, just with the little sanding attachment. I like that it's kind of roughed up a bit there, so should make adhering to some other kind of surface a little bit more, something for the glue to cling to. That's the idea. I also have some of these corner sections that I've done. On the original, it had some of these just corners into it on the sides here. So I've just cut some 6-inch style corners, and what the idea is that we have a nice little kind of curb there now. To add some extra height underneath as well, I'm gonna plan on using some of this EVA foam just to add some height. Another thing that as you can see here, I've got the old heat gun pulled out. I'm gonna use that because you might notice that on a couple of these, just because it's this kind of plastic, it has a little bit of a bend here and there. So I guess just hitting it with the heat, I'm just gonna hold it in position there while it kind of cools, a little bit in the opposite direction there, hoping to kind of rectify any of the bends. Yeah, all right, that's already a lot flatter than before. It's not perfectly flat, but hopefully it's gonna be enough to do what I wanna do. I'm gonna try and glue this all together. Because I'm lazy, I'm probably just gonna use hot glue. If that doesn't work, then maybe something a little sturdier. Let's see how hot glue goes. I already have this glue gun warming up here, so maybe I'll set it to high instead, just because I'm working with some plastics and stuff and need a bit more working time to get things in position. All right, so for underneath, because I don't actually have a big enough piece, a solid piece, I'm just going to glue it down and then fill in the corner and sections. Just because of how sturdy this plastic is, it'll be a good cutting guide as well. So I'm gonna put this texture side up, so then we're gonna have a nice non-slip surface underneath it, which will be nice. Just push that down. It's actually holding on pretty strongly. I think also because I roughed up the undersurface of these quite well with the sanding bit on the edge Dremel. That's given it a lot of adhesion, which is good. So there's still a bit of a gap here, but with this now I can just use that as a cutting guide to get a nice clean plumb edge on this. There we go. All right, I just need to fill in this last corner bit. Got some offcuts here. This actually might be the way to go to fill that in. One solid piece would have been nicer, but this will still get the job done. There we go, one completed city tile with a little bit of a street corner here. Just need to do 3 more. So I've just primed them grey with some matte spray paint here, and something I've noticed after priming it is just they're a little bit plain. So I think I'm just using some of this granny grading, this knitting mesh, to create some small little gutters in some of these, some little grates in some of these gutters, which would be a nice touch. I'm going to cut out a little grate just for the knife here. Helps to have a nice fresh blade on here. Ooh, got it. And just on here, just to make it more of these bars. Just cut out the middle sections here. Just going to cut those out, and then you've got some nice little bars. Alright, I'm actually going to use a little bit of super glue here to get it in place. Use my little tweezers because of my big jumbo man hands. Okay, that's one down. Oh, that glued pretty quickly. Alright, so that's all glued in. I'm probably going to prime it again, so I'm just going to use some of this dark chocolate acrylic with a matte finish. Try and prime all this stuff up before dry brushing with some dark grey. Okay, this is looking a bit better now that it's primed all brown. This is going to be kind of the underlayer, and now I'm just going to hit it with a dry brush. So I'm just going to mix up some paint on an old palette here. Let's see, we're going to just have a little bit of a mix of some Amish grey, then a bit of just some black, and then just a drop of this Viridian acrylic ink. Now I'm just going to grab an old makeup brush here, some of this dark grey, just load it up, try and get as much out as we can, and I'm just going to dust it on. Just very light pressure, circular motions. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of this lighter grey. I'm just going to hit some of the edges. Now just to kind of darken in around here, maybe add a bit more contrast, just going to use some Citadel Nuln Oil just into the recesses there, just to kind of add a bit more shading, I guess. That's the kind of idea. And just to kind of blend it a bit, just kind of dabbing the brush. Actually just going to just use my finger just around the edges of it, just to kind of almost feather it a bit. Just going to quickly add some metallic effect for these grates with some bronze and silver Sharpies. Alright, now to filth up the streets a bit more with some Vallejo thick mud. I love this stuff. Mostly focusing around the gutters. It's a good excuse to add some little tufts and greenery, a little bit of contrast to the city streets. So I'm just using a little bit of this Athenian camo shade here, and around some of these puddles a bit more. Alright, yeah, so I've waited for that Athenian camo shade to dry a bit in these kind of areas. I really like the effect. Just sealing it in and protecting it with some spray matte varnish just before the next step. Alright, I'm just going to use some of this Vallejo water texture, just for a little extra detail, maybe some puddles or just around the gutters here. Alright, that's looking pretty good now. Let's have a look at these tiles in action. I really love the variety of configurations you can get with these. One thing I might change is making that street curb a little bigger so the streets aren't as wide. With some different lighting and scattered terrain, it can quickly transition to a sewer location. If you want to see these tiles in action, there's some great Dungeons & Dragons live plays on the channel. These videos can't have been made without the amazing support of my patrons on Patreon. It's a great little community where I show a lot of behind the scenes and work in progress, so consider joining today. A big thanks to everyone subscribing and supporting the channel, with special thanks to Chris Andrus, Luke Mansberger, and Charisma on Command. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm Sebastian, and let's create and inspire.